Welcome to my 30-day series, SQL in 30. I'm giving you one SQL lesson per day for the next 30 days, all in bite-sized TikTok tutorials. By the end of these 30 days, you will have gained a solid foundation in SQL and be ready to continue your journey into more advanced SQL topics. Today is day one, so I'm starting with the very basics. What is SQL? So if you've never seen SQL or any other coding language before, this might look a little bit confusing to you, but it's actually a lot more intuitive than you might think because SQL is written a lot like spoken language. SQL, or SQL, stands for Structured Query Language, and it's the language we use to talk to a database. You can think of a database like a collection of spreadsheets, and each of the spreadsheets within the database is called a table. We store our data in databases rather than on spreadsheets because it's much easier and quicker to retrieve data this way rather than trying to sift through a bunch of different spreadsheets to find the data we want. If you're working as a data analyst, your company will likely have their data stored in a database or in several databases, and then you will use a program like MySQL or Postgres to write code and get that data. SQL is often thought of as the most important skill for data analysts because it's the language we use to get data from the database. In this simple block of code, we're selecting all of the columns from a table called orders. This is pretty much the most basic SQL code that you can write. Eventually, you will learn to write more complex code like this. In my next video, I'm going to go over the basics of the select statement. Welcome to my 30-day series where I'm giving you one SQL lesson per day for the next 30 days. Today is day 2, so we're going over the basics of the select statement. And we're going to write our first SQL code. So if you want to follow along, you can use a free online SQL compiler. I'm using this one from Programmers. All right, so the select statement is the command you use to identify which columns you want to pull from the database. So one of my tables here is called orders, and I have 4 columns in this table: order ID, item, amount, and customer ID. My boss asked me to pull a list of all of the order IDs and the item that was bought. So I need these 2 fields, order ID and item. So all I need to do is type select, followed by the columns or fields that I want to pull. I like to put each field on a new line so that I can quickly see which fields I'm pulling. You will need to add a comma after each field, except for the last one that you're pulling. Next, you need to indicate which table you are taking your data from. I have 3 tables here, and I'm pulling this data from the orders table. So I'm gonna say from orders, and that's all the code I need to write. It's good practice to add a semicolon at the end of your SQL code and to indent each field you are selecting. You might see some people write all of their commands in uppercase, but you don't really need to do that. I prefer not to. All right, let's run this code. And we see the 2 columns that we pulled, order ID and item. If you want to pull every single column in your table, you can just use an asterisk instead of typing out the name of each and every field. So when we do that, we get our entire table of data. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to filter your data using the where clause, so make sure to follow. Welcome to my 30-day series, SQL in 30. I'm giving you one SQL lesson per day for 30 days. Today is day 3, so we're going over filtering your data using the where clause. So when you're pulling columns in a table, you may not want every single record. For example, my boss asked me to pull all of the shipping IDs whose status is pending. And I could just pull this entire table, export it to Excel, and then delete the data I don't need, but it would be much faster to instead just pull the exact data I need. So I'm going to start by selecting the fields I want to pull from the correct table. And after identifying the table, I'm going to use the where clause to indicate how I want to filter my data. I only want to pull records where the status is pending. So I'm going to type the field name, status, and set it equal to the criteria, which is pending. This is going to pull all of the records where the data in the status column is exactly this text right here. And it is case sensitive, so I want to make sure to capitalize the P. And when I run this, I get the output I expected. Let's do a numeric example. Let's say my boss asked for the customer ID of customers aged 25 or older. So that means that I need to select the customer ID and the age from the customers table, where the age is greater than or equal to 25. I don't need quotation marks around 25 since it's numeric. And when I run this, I get the expected output. Welcome back to my 30-day series, SQL in 30, where I'm giving you one SQL lesson per day for 30 days. Today is day 4, so we're going over logical operators like and, or, and not. So we already talked about using the where clause to filter by one condition, but what if you want to filter by 2 conditions? For example, my boss asked me to pull all of the data where the customer with customer ID 4 bought a keyboard. So I'm going to start by selecting all of the columns from the orders table. Now I need to apply my filters. So I only want to see records where the item was a keyboard and the customer ID was 4. So I'm going to use this AND operator here to add an additional filter to my query. And when I run this, we see that we only have one record that meets both of these criteria. Now my boss wants me to pull all of the records where either a keyboard or a monitor was purchased. So I'm going to use the OR operator here. This indicates that if either of these criteria are met, then I want to see that record. So now I'll run this, and there's my data. And finally, my boss decides that he just wants to see all of the records except when the item is a mouse pad. So I'm going to use the NOT operator to exclude the mouse pad item. To use NOT, you need to write where not, followed by the condition you want to exclude. So I'll go ahead and run this. And there are all of my records where the item is not a mouse pad. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to sort your data using order by. Welcome back to my 30-day series, SQL in 30, where I'm giving you one SQL lesson per day for 30 days. Today is day 5, so I'm going to show you how to sort your data using order by. So my boss asked me to just pull all of the data from the orders table, but he wants it sorted by the purchase amount. So all I need to do is select the data I want to work with, indicate the table I am taking the data from. I don't want to filter my data, so I'm going to skip the where clause. And now I can say order by and indicate which field I want to sort my data by. SQL will automatically sort your data in ascending order. If you want, you could include ASC here to indicate that you're sorting your data in ascending order, but it's not necessary. So let's run this. And there's my data sorted in ascending order by purchase amount. If you want to sort your data in descending order, just write DESC after your column name. Now my data is sorted in descending order by amount. You can also sort your data by multiple columns. So for example, if I wanted to sort in ascending order, first by amount, and then by customer ID, I can just add a comma followed by the second column I want to order by. So what this does is say that we're going to sort the data by amount in ascending order, but if 2 records have the same amount, then we'll sort those 2 records by customer ID. So I'll run this. And just as expected, my data is sorted first by amount, and for these 2 records where the amount is the same, the data is sorted in ascending order by customer ID. If you are sorting by multiple columns, you need to be extra careful about using ascending and descending. If I put DESC at the end of my code, this will only sort by customer ID in descending order. So when I run this, we see that the data is still sorted first by amount in ascending order and second by customer ID in descending order. So if you want to sort both of these fields in descending order, you will need to indicate after each field to sort in descending order. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to limit your results using limit. Today is day 6, so I'm going to show you how to limit your query results using limit. So this is a pretty simple concept. Sometimes you don't want to retrieve all of the rows in your data set. Sometimes you just want maybe the top 3 rows. For example, let's say I want to see the top 3 orders by amount. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of the columns from my orders table. And because I want to see the top 3 records by amount, I need to order by amount in descending order. So this is going to pull all of my data sorted by amount from largest to smallest. And now I just need to limit these results to the top 3 rows. So all I need to do is say limit 3. And when I run this, I get my top 3 orders by amount. You can retrieve any number of rows you want. Just change the 3 to whatever number of records you want to pull. Tomorrow, we're going to go over null values in your dataset. Welcome back to my 30-day series, SQL in 30, where I'm giving you one SQL lesson per day for 30 days. Today is day 7, so we're going over null values. So in SQL, null does not mean 0, and it doesn't mean blank either. It means unknown. There's no data. So this is a very important distinction, especially when you're doing data cleaning, because you don't want to just replace null values with a 0 or a blank space, because it's neither of those things. It's null. So let's say we have a table here called customer phone numbers, and some people did not enter their phone numbers. So we don't have them in our database. Instead of a blank string, this is actually stored as null, meaning there's no data here. If you want to see all customers whose phone numbers we don't have, you will filter using isNull. So first I'm going to select all of the columns from the customer phone numbers table. And I'll say where the phone number field is null. And when I run this, I get all of the customers with no phone number. If instead you want to pull all of the customers who do have a phone number in our database, you would instead say is not null. This will filter out all of the phone numbers that are null, leaving you only with customers who do have a phone number in our database. All right, you have completed a full week of SQL in 30. In 7 days, we've gone through the foundations of SQL. And in the next 7 days, we will advance to data types and aggregations, so make sure to follow so you don't miss it.